average car payment in America now is $499. If you take $500 a month and invest it from age 30 to age 70, you're going to have over $5 million.
Lady.
The car market has some major problems. It's not that prices are high, because we've heard that a million times, but the system as a whole is starting to break. And this didn't just happen overnight. We already know how car salesmen basically stopped selling cars and started selling loans with longer terms, smaller monthly payments, and a system built to make anything look affordable. But here's the twist most people didn't see coming. This was all just the setup. What's happening now is the fallout.
If you make $1,000 a month and you spend $1,000 a month on your car, you don't have money to put gas in it and you don't have money to eat.
Repossessions, delinquent loans, trade-ins for less expensive vehicles.
More cars are disappearing from driveways, and not by choice.
And this is starting to hit everyone, even people who think they've done everything right. Because you don't notice it when you're test driving the car, you notice it when the bills start piling up, when repo trucks are everywhere, and when owning a car is like paying a mortgage. Today, we're pulling the curtain back on the next phase of the problem, which has become impossible to ignore. But let's start with something simple. If the car market were behaving normally, the warning signs we're seeing right now wouldn't be all that alarming, but they are. And that's the problem. Right now, car loan delinquencies are rising faster than ever across every credit tier, not just the risky borrowers, which means more people are falling behind in their car loans than ever before. Subprime borrowers, who are people with lower credit scores and already pay the highest interest rates, are getting hit first, and the numbers are pretty bad. Even the buy here, pay here lenders, which are the finance companies created specifically to serve these lower income, high risk buyers, are having to file for bankruptcy. But even if you're not a high risk borrower, this still affects you, because when the riskiest borrowers start falling, it tells you the foundation of the market is beginning to crack, and cracks always end up spreading upwards. Repos are another warning sign, but this time they're practically screaming at us. Repossession companies say they are overwhelmed with work, which only happens when loans start going bad and the banks need to get their money back. Not in one region, not in one income group, but everywhere. This year alone, 7.5 million repossession assignments have already been issued, and they're projected to hit 10.5 million by year end. That's repos happening after a single missed payment, something almost unheard of 10 years ago. Which means if repos are rising this fast at a time when unemployment is still low, it means households aren't just tightening their budgets, they're stretched way beyond their breaking point. And then the payments. This is the stat that's incredibly hard to believe, but people are now paying over $1,000 per month for everyday family cars. Not BMWs, not Mercedes, I'm talking Kias, Toyotas, and Hondas. But how did we get here? For starters, the average new car price just crossed $50,000, which pushed the national average payment to $749 per month. But what's really worrying is that every 1 in 4 new car owners now owes more on their car loan than their car is worth, averaging more than $10,000 in negative equity. Not in year 3, not after an accident, but immediately, the moment they drive off the car lot. And even though inventory has improved, prices aren't dropping because demand didn't just collapse, and the dealers learned that they could keep charging pandemic level prices, but keep the profit for themselves. Therefore, the normal supply and demand curve isn't really working. And that's why people feel like something about this market is fundamentally wrong, because it is. And just when you think the prices are the whole problem, you realize the companies behind these prices have an entirely new playbook. But first, we need to talk about creating a playbook that actually grows your wealth. You see, my wife and I are currently saving up to buy a house, and at the end of every month, I go through all of our income and expenses to decide how much we'll put towards that down payment. And in the past, that meant I was opening up 25 different tabs to check all of our bank accounts, investment accounts, and credit cards, and then adding them all to an Excel spreadsheet, hoping I didn't miss anything or type anything wrong. As you can imagine, that could easily take me a few hours if I was lucky, which meant sometimes I just avoided doing it altogether. But about 2 years ago, I found Monarch Money, which made my life a million times easier. And that's why I'm so excited that they are the sponsor of today's video. Monarch is a private and ad-free platform, which means you are actually the customer and not the product. You won't get any ads, and your data won't be sold to the highest bidder. Monarch syncs with over 13,000 institutions, which means I no longer have to open up all those tabs. I just head over to the simple dashboard in Monarch, and I can see everything pulled together in one spot. Monarch also makes it easier than ever to work towards a goal like buying a house or paying off debt, because you can set up custom goals in the app that automatically update with your progress. Additionally, Monarch makes those budget talks with your spouse way easier, because you don't have to be an accountant to understand where your money is coming from and what you're spending it on. I really can't recommend Monarch enough. It's one of my favorite financial tools that I use. And as a supporter of the channel, they are offering you 50% off your first year using the code GRANT50 or by scanning the QR code right here to access your free trial. Thank you again to Monarch for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the car companies that aren't helping you save your money. This is the part that almost no buyer sees coming. You see, the car business quietly discovered something that changed the game. If people can't afford higher car prices, they don't need to lower the prices. They just need to break that price down into hours and charge for all of the extras separately. And that's exactly what's happening. To explain it clearly, let's walk through a scenario. Meet John. John's not trying to buy a luxury car. He's just a normal guy who wants a reliable, everyday family car, something like a Toyota. He walks into the dealership thinking he knows the price, but in today's market, what John is actually buying isn't just one product. It's a base vehicle with dozens of extra pieces attached to it, each waiting to be charged separately. First, you have the subscriptions. The salesperson tells John, good news, heated seats are available. What he doesn't tell John is that they are available, but at a monthly fee. And if you want remote start, another monthly fee. A performance boost, another monthly fee. Things that used to be included are now being quietly locked behind a paywall, not because the technology changed, but because the business model did. BMW already tested subscription heated seats. Mercedes now sells paid horsepower boosts, and Europe is rolling out full subscription ownership models. Not because people want this system, but because buyers, including John, focus on the cheap upfront payment while ignoring the long-term drain. Then there's the data problem. When John drives off the lot feeling good about the car, what he doesn't know is that the car is already collecting info about him: where he brakes, where he drives, how hard he accelerates, how often his seatbelt clicks, whether someone is sitting in the passenger seat, even how fast he turns corners. And that data doesn't just stay in the car. Insurers buy it, advertisers buy it, manufacturers analyze it, and they all profile him for future upsells. And yes, some cars now literally serve ads inside the infotainment screen. So now John's car isn't just a car, it's a hyper-targeted, personalized advertising device on wheels. And finally, the unknown free trials within the car. A few months after buying his car, John notices something weird. Certain features that worked when he bought the car suddenly don't anymore. The car came fully equipped, but now the free trials have expired and everything is locked behind a paywall. Want auto high beams? Pay a little bit more. Want adaptive cruise control? Pay a little bit more. Want a faster acceleration mode? Pay some more. In fact, analysts estimate automakers could make $15,000 per vehicle in subscription revenue. And here's the wild part. Those subscription payments are now being compared to asset-backed securities, as in John's heated seat payment is being packaged like a Wall Street financial product. But John's story isn't anything crazy. In fact, he isn't doing anything wrong. He's not overspending, he's not irresponsible, but instead, he's walking into a system specifically designed to look cheap up front, charge more over time, and turn the buyer into the product. John isn't unique, he's the average customer, and he's walking into a machine built to monetize him at every stage. And when you multiply John's experience across every dealer, every buyer, and every loan, the entire structure starts to break, and that's where we are today. This isn't just a pricing problem, it's an emotional engineering problem. Because car companies know one thing better than anyone. People buy cars with their emotions and justify the purchase with math later. But now that emotional game has a new target. They're not selling luxury cars or dream cars, but instead the salesmen are focused on base level family cars, just like John's, which are now crossing into price ranges that require manipulative emotional justification. Everyone else is upgrading. You don't want your kids in an unreliable car. It's only $63 more per month, which is exactly why dealers don't need to lower the price like we just learned. They just need to slice everything into monthly fees until you say yes. And that's how someone walks in for a $32,000 car and walks out with a $47,000 loan. After all, what's another $250 there, another $500 here, which is exactly how you end up spending another $10,000 to $15,000 without realizing it. But the shocking part isn't just the upgrades, it's what they lead you into next, because the emotional game feeds directly into the modern car loan trap. At this point, we reach the issue that almost nobody explains clearly. The car loan trap isn't just one trap, it's 5 small traps stacked on top of each other. And to show you how this plays out, let's go back to John, whose car salesman just told him, "Great news, we can get your payment under $500 a month." What they don't highlight is how they get to that number. It's an 84 to 96 month loan, which is 7 to 8 years. That loan is so long that John is underwater for most of the time he owns the car. And by the end of it, he'll have paid enough interest to practically buy a second car without even realizing it. But the second trap is even quieter, because here's the part John didn't even consider. Americans only keep their car for about 5 to 6 years on average. So if John signs a 7-year loan, he's probably not going to finish it. Instead, he's trading in the car while still owing thousands, and that's how negative equity becomes almost guaranteed. Not because John messed up, but because the loan term makes it nearly impossible to avoid. Then comes the part nobody likes to think about: interest. Even normal cars look affordable at the dealership until the financing hits. Rates of 8 to 12% mean John's everyday family car suddenly behaves like a luxury purchase, and he ends up paying more for interest every month than he does on food. The fourth trap is the dealership's real business model: fabric protection, security packages, extended warranties, tire and wheel, gap insurance, enhanced protection plans. The dealer makes more profit on the extras than on the car itself. And John doesn't feel it in the moment because every add-on gets sliced into tiny monthly amounts that feel almost harmless. Meanwhile, his insurance shoots up because the car is now loaded with a ton of expensive options. But the final trap, the one that keeps people stuck in debt for years: trading in early. John still owes on his original loan, and that leftover debt gets rolled into the new loan, meaning his next car starts out underwater, so he trades that one in early too, and the cycle repeats itself. Negative equity isn't just the exception anymore, it's pretty much the default. Because when John falls into this trap, it's a problem for him. But when millions of people fall into it, it becomes a problem for the entire economy. Car loans are one of the largest household debt categories after mortgages, and when this segment shakes, it can send shockwaves through the entire market. It hits the banks that tighten lending, it hits insurers who raise premiums, it hits dealers who can't move inventory, it hits auction houses flooded with repos, it hits the used car market as prices swing, it hits manufacturers who are forced to slow production, and ultimately it hits consumer spending because households are forced to spend more on what should be a tool in our lives, which means everyone pays, even people who avoided the trap. So how are you supposed to get yourself out of this mess? Let's go back to John, because he's exactly the kind of person who needs this part the most. He bought the nicer version of the car because it felt like the right upgrade. It had the extra trim, the nicer wheels, and the tech package that made the car feel worth it. But here's what's actually happened. That nice upgrade quietly squeezed his budget every single month. And that's the part we forget when standing on the showroom floor. John needs to redefine what a nice car really is, and honestly, so do you. A nice car isn't a badge, it isn't the trim, it's the one that gives you the breathing room at the end of the month. Financial freedom beats Apple CarPlay and Chrome Accents every single time. So don't buy emotionally, buy mathematically. John's first mistake was letting the dealer guide the conversation around monthly payments. Your first move should be the opposite. Ask for the out-the-door price, not the monthly payment, not what can you get me to, the total number. The moment you say, I only care about the total price, the entire game shifts and all the hidden tricks lose their power. If John had done that, half the traps wouldn't have worked on him. You also need to avoid subscriptions and add-ons, heated seats, fabric protection, extended warranties, software upgrades. They all look tiny when sliced into monthly amounts, but for John, each of those tiny amounts became a big, long-term drag. The rule of thumb is simple. If it doesn't add value for 7 to 10 years, don't add it to a 7 to 10 year loan. And if you already have a high interest loan, you have some options. You can refinance when rates fall, you can trade down to unlock immediate cash flow, or just keep the car longer to finally outrun the depreciation curve. Trading it in to roll your equity over is the most expensive option. John didn't know that, but now you do. That said, there is always a way to take advantage of a bad market if you're patient and strategic. If the market softens and dealerships start losing pricing power, buyers with cash or strong credit get better prices, better negotiation leverage, more inventory choices, and discounted trims as manufacturers chase sales volume. And this is the upside of waiting. If you walk in financially prepared while everyone else is stretched thin, you become the most valuable buyer in the room, and dealers suddenly work for you, not the other way around. And if John's story shows us anything, it's that the real win isn't beating the system, it's taking back control. Imagine your car payment was just gone. What would you do with that money? Would you pay down debt, build a savings buffer, take a week-long trip, or maybe just sleep a little easier every night? That was the question John never asked. He only asked, can I afford the payment? And never, what could I gain if I didn't even have one? That's the real challenge here. Not whether you can make the payment, but what freedom you'd have if you didn't need to. The car market trap isn't just a headline. It's your wallet and it's your daily life. And like John, the next decision you make is the one that matters the most. YouTube thinks you might also like this video. Let's see if they're right.